Welcome back to the EMT Spot's Blood Pressure Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel Harrison, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by the incredible Olivia Harper for our deep dive. We're going to be exploring a connection that you might not expect, the potential link between high blood pressure and Alzheimer's disease. It's a fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling topic, but it's something we need to be aware of.
Absolutely. When we think about high blood pressure, we tend to focus on its impact on the heart and blood vessels. But what's becoming more and more clear is that its effects can go way beyond that, potentially even influencing the health of our brains.
So let's start with the basics. For those who might not be super familiar with Alzheimer's, what exactly is it?
Well, Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia. Dementia is a broader term that covers a range of conditions, all characterized by a decline in cognitive function. So think of dementia as like an umbrella term, and Alzheimer's is one specific type, just a very prevalent one.
Okay, so when we're talking about dementia, we're essentially talking about damage to the brain that affects things like our thinking, our memory, and our ability to function in everyday life.
Exactly. And Alzheimer's in particular is a progressive disease, which means it gets worse over time. It tragically leads to severe cognitive impairment, and ultimately, it's fatal. Now, there are treatments available to help manage some of the symptoms, but as of right now, there's no cure for Alzheimer's.
That's really heavy. I mean, what are some of the most common symptoms that people should be aware of?
One of the earliest and most noticeable signs is memory loss, particularly having trouble remembering information that was recently learned. But it goes beyond just simple forgetfulness. We're talking about struggling to follow conversations, getting lost in places that should be familiar, or even having trouble finding the right
It
words.
sounds incredibly debilitating.
Yeah, it really is. As the disease progresses, people may also experience confusion, disorientation, difficulty with speech and language, problems with movement and coordination, and even changes in their mood and behavior. It really does impact every aspect of a person's life.
So how does high blood pressure fit into all of this? I mean, is there like a definitive proven link between these two conditions?
While the exact nature of the link is still being actively researched, studies have shown a strong correlation between high blood pressure and an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's. For instance, research has shown that individuals with high blood pressure are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's compared to those with normal blood pressure.
Twice as likely. That's a pretty scary statistic. It really highlights how important it is to manage blood pressure, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what's even more interesting is that having high blood pressure earlier in life might actually increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's later on. This really underscores the importance of managing blood pressure throughout our lives, not just when we're older.
So it's not just about addressing it as we age. It's about being proactive about our heart health from a younger age.
Exactly. And there are actually a couple of prominent theories about how these two conditions might be connected. One theory suggests that high blood pressure can actually damage the blood vessels in our brains, and this damage can lead to the death of brain cells and potentially contribute to the development of Alzheimer's.
Well, that makes sense. Our brains rely on a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients delivered through those blood vessels. So damage to those vessels could definitely have a negative impact.
Precisely. See, high blood pressure can lead to a condition called atherosclerosis. This is where plaque builds up inside the arteries, restricting blood flow, and this is especially damaging in areas of the brain like the hippocampus, which is crucial for memory formation.
So essentially, high blood pressure could be starving parts of the brain that are essential for cognitive function.
In a way, yes. And the other prominent theory suggests that high blood pressure could actually trigger inflammation in the brain. And this inflammation might also play a role in the development of Alzheimer's. We know that chronic inflammation can be harmful to various organs, and the brain is no exception.
So even if we don't fully understand all the intricacies of the connection, it seems pretty clear that there's a link there, and it's something we should be paying attention to.
Exactly. Even though research is still ongoing, this potential connection between high blood pressure and Alzheimer's is definitely something we should all be mindful of. It really underscores the importance of managing our blood pressure to protect our overall health. And that includes our brain health.
And that's a great segue into talking about some strategies for managing blood pressure, which I think we should definitely explore. But maybe we can take a quick break first and come back to that. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we've talked about this concerning link between high blood pressure and Alzheimer's disease. And it's definitely a bit unsettling to think about, especially since there's no cure for either one.
You're right. There's no easy fix. There's no magic pill we can take to make these conditions just disappear. And that's why it's so crucial for us to really focus on managing our blood pressure.
Right. It's not about pretending we can completely eliminate the risk. It's about taking those steps to give ourselves the best chance possible.
Exactly. And the good news is that there are things we can do. We always hear about these lifestyle changes, but they really can make a big difference.
So let's break it down a bit. What are some of the most effective things we can do to keep our blood pressure under control?
Well, weight management is a great place to start. Obesity is often linked to high blood pressure, so losing even a small amount of weight can have a really noticeable effect.
I've heard that before, that even a few pounds can make a difference.
It's true. It's a good reminder that small changes can lead to big results. And of course, we can't forget about regular exercise.
Exercise. Always the answer, right?
Well, it plays a huge role, for sure. Physical activity helps lower blood pressure, and the best part is, it doesn't need to be some super intense workout.
That's good to hear because I'm not training for any marathons over here.
Haha, exactly. Even short bursts of moderate exercise can be really beneficial. Things like brisk walking or a quick jog.
So my little walks around the neighborhood actually count.
They absolutely do. Every bit of movement helps. And while we're talking about things that are good for our health, what about things like yoga or meditation?
Those are great for stress, right?
You got it. Stress is a major contributor to high blood pressure. So finding ways to relax and de-stress is incredibly important. Activities like yoga, meditation, even deep breathing exercises can make a big difference.
It's amazing how connected everything is, how much our mental and emotional well-being can impact our physical health.
Absolutely. We can't treat our minds and bodies as separate entities. Taking care of our mental health is just as important as taking care of our physical health.
Okay, so we've covered exercise and stress management. But what about diet? That always seems to be a big part of the conversation when it comes to health.
You're absolutely right. Diet plays a crucial role. One of the most impactful changes you can make is to reduce your salt intake.
Salt. It's so delicious, but it can be a real troublemaker.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But seriously, too much salt can really cause your blood pressure to spike. So choosing low sodium or sodium-free options is a smart move.
It sounds like reading those nutrition labels carefully really pays off.
It absolutely does. It's all about being informed and making conscious decisions. And while we're on the topic of food, there are certain things we should focus on incorporating into our diets.
Oh, I'm all ears. I'm always looking for tasty ways to improve my health.
Well, potassium-rich foods are fantastic. Things like bananas, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, they can help counter the negative effects of sodium, and they really support healthy blood pressure levels.
So it sounds like managing blood pressure involves a whole body approach. It's not just one thing. It's about combining a healthy diet,
Yeah,
regular exercise, and effective stress management.
you got it. It's about taking care of ourselves inside and out. And there's one more important tool we should talk about: home blood pressure monitoring.
Oh yeah, I've seen those devices at the store. What's the advantage of using one of those?
Using a home blood pressure monitor allows you to keep track of your readings regularly and conveniently. It's like having a personal health tracker right there at your fingertips.
That's a great analogy. It really gives you a sense of control over your health.
Exactly. It empowers you to stay informed and take charge of your well-being. Of course, it's still important to consult with your doctor for personalized advice and treatment plans. They can help you create a plan that's specifically tailored to your needs and your medical history.
Right, so even with all these steps we can take on our own, having that expert guidance is still essential.
Absolutely. It's about teamwork. You and your healthcare provider working together to achieve the best possible outcome.
Wow, we've really dug deep into this connection between high blood pressure and Alzheimer's. It's a lot to take in, but I think it's so important for people to understand.
Definitely. Knowledge is power, right?
Exactly. I think sometimes when we hear about these serious health risks, it can feel overwhelming.
I agree. It's easy to feel a bit helpless.
But I think what I'm taking away from our conversation is a sense of hope, because we're not powerless.
Exactly. We've talked about so many different things we can do to take control of our health: managing our weight, exercising regularly, finding healthy ways to manage stress, making smart food choices, and even monitoring our blood pressure at home. It's all about taking those proactive steps.
And it's about having those open conversations with our doctors so we can get the personalized guidance and support we need.
Absolutely. It's a team effort.
Well, Olivia, I want to thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. This has been such an informative and engaging conversation.
The pleasure was all mine, Samuel. I'm always happy to talk about these important health topics.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to the EMTSpot's Blood Pressure Podcast. I'm Samuel Harrison.
And I'm Olivia Harper.
Remember to subscribe to our podcast, like this episode and leave us a comment. And don't forget to share it with your friends and family.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating episode. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and take care of your health.